Welcome to my presentation on the ethical dilemma discussion for this week. I am Cheryl McGee Baker, and I look forward to discussing this week's subject matter with everyone. This ethical dilemma was something that I encountered many, many years ago um, at, at an organization that I worked for. Um, it was, it seemed like a very small and simple decision to make or a situation to address. Um, but in many cases, a lot of the ethical concerns that we'll come across in our daily work and in life aren't always big, hairy decisions that we have to make that causes ethical questions to come into concern, but it's the small everyday things that we encounter that go done unconscious if you're not aware of the situation. Um, this particular case is about a community service situation. Overall, community service is good, and when individuals perform the work, it can provide valuable experience for the community service volunteer and needed help for the organization supervising the volunteer. In this particular situation, the organization was asked to host an undergraduate student to fulfill so that they could fulfill their community service requirement for graduation. The student was a week from graduation and needs 100 hours of community service completed and documented by the organization. In this situation, a board member requests that the organization accommodates the student with the caveat that the student will complete the hours after graduation. There's several concerns this situation because simply um, it's just wrong. And the decision was easy, but also there was accommodations that were made for the student as well. So, looking at the concerns, what are the ethical concerns for the student? First of all, waiting to the last hour or minute to complete a school requirement. The student then just get informed a week before graduation that they had to commit and complete 100 community service hours. This was probably a part of their program throughout the whole 4 years that they were in undergraduate studies. Um, Also, for the student, it was the willingness to accept a letter, although it was an untruth, that they had not actually completed the community service hours as required for their programming. And lastly, seeking an organization that could not possibly accommodate the request under the time constraints provided. Board member concerns. The board member knows the standards of the organization and the value it places on integrity, especially integrity was a part of its value statement. The board member placed the organization at risk of a trustee of the governance at risk as a trustee of the governance structure. Also, the board member creates a suspicion about themselves as an ethical person and leader. Um, it brought to light that the organization did not have a policy in place to standardize the regulation of community service opportunities and participant parameters. Although the organization did run youth programming in which they were a part of the AmeriCorps program and service learning opportunities, they had very detailed standards for that portion of the community service, but they did not have a standard for if they were going to accept outside student community service volunteers into the organization. So the first thing is that they didn't even have a standardized regulation or policy concerning community service. The organization was placed in a situation that the integrity of operations could be placed into question. Also, the organization had to consider the request of the board member as an infraction that could set a precedent for future actions. The director denies the request of the board member but offers an alternative course of action. And that alternative course of action was that they offered the student to complete the 100 hours of community service at the organization, but it would also require that the letter that they needed for graduation would not happen until the 100 hours were completed. And also, they were willing to write the community service office of the university to state that they were committing to hosting the student, but they could not write a letter at this time for to actually acknowledge the student's completion of the required community service parameters. The director also asked for a mediation with board members to discuss the decision, so it was clear, and also to further um, to further not have this situation happen to again, and to develop a working group that would put together a formal policy on community service volunteers working with the organization. Um, the so and then lastly, the director offers the student an alternative to the original request. My presentation and video about this experience. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts.